All right, welcome everyone. We're diving deep into India's internet scene in 2024. It's a
Yeah,
lot more exciting than it sounds, I promise.
definitely.
We're using the Internet in India Report 2024. It's a joint effort from Kantar and the Internet and Mobile Association of India.
The IAMAI.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going beyond just the numbers here. We really want to get into how people are actually using the internet in India.
Right, like what it means for all of us.
Yeah, what it means for you listening. And one of the most surprising things to me was how rural India is now a major driving force in this whole internet boom.
Yeah, I mean, rural India now has 90 million more internet users
Wow.
than urban India.
90 million, that's like a whole other country online. What's driving this massive shift?
Well, there are a few things, actually. You've got government initiatives pushing for wider internet access.
Right.
Data plans have become so much more affordable, and even the pandemic kind of forced a lot of activities
Oh,
online,
yeah.
even in rural areas. So all of that combined has made a huge difference.
So we've got this massive influx of new users in rural India.
Right.
Are they all logging on from their own devices, though?
That's a good question. Infrastructure is still catching up in a lot of places.
Yeah.
The report shows a 24% increase this year in rural users who are sharing devices,
Wow.
mainly relying on someone else's mobile phone.
Hmm.
So this raises questions about accessibility, privacy, digital literacy. Just getting people online isn't enough. We need to make sure that everyone can truly benefit.
That makes total sense. I mean, you're designing a website, an app,
Right.
even just an online ad campaign. You can't just assume everyone has their own smartphone with a super fast connection.
Right.
It might not work so well in this market.
No.
You might need to be more creative with data usage, think about content that works on shared screens and so on.
Yeah.
It's a whole different ballgame.
It is. It calls for a shift in perspective, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not just a rural versus urban thing, is it? I mean, I bet there are some pretty big differences between states, too.
Oh, absolutely. Kerala, Goa, and Maharashtra are leading in internet penetration.
Okay.
But then you've got states like Jharkhand, Uttar Pradesh, and Bihar, which are lagging behind. So it shows that the digital divide isn't just a national issue.
Right.
It exists within the country, too.
Yeah. So what's behind these regional differences? Is it just about infrastructure, or are there other factors at play?
Well, infrastructure is a big part of it, but it's not the whole story. You have to think about language preferences, too,
Right.
cultural factors that influence how people use technology,
Yeah.
and even local economies.
Interesting.
It's a reminder that India isn't a single market. It's more like a tapestry of diverse regions,
Yeah.
each of their own unique characteristics.
So anyone doing business in India, you can't just create one strategy and expect it to work everywhere, right?
Exactly.
You've got to understand those regional nuances, tailor your approach, and really speak to the needs and interests
Absolutely.
of each specific audience.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that's changing pretty much everywhere is how people are consuming content.
Right.
Here in India, the report says the number of what they call cord cutters, the people who ditch traditional TV for online content, has actually surpassed the folks who only watch regular TV.
Oh, wow.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a significant shift.
Yeah.
It reflects what's happening globally, too, with how people are consuming media.
Mm.
Streaming services, personalized content, on-demand access, these things are really appealing to people.
Right. So does this mean traditional media is on its way out? Like, are we all just going to be glued to our phones and laptops for entertainment? What happens to, good old-fashioned storytelling?
Well, I don't think traditional media is disappearing completely,
Okay.
but it does have to adapt.
Right.
We're already seeing media companies experimenting with new formats,
Yeah.
collaborating with streaming services, and they're having to find these innovative ways to reach audiences because they're increasingly fragmented across all these different platforms.
Okay, so content consumption is changing. What about shopping? I mean, e-commerce is booming pretty much everywhere. So what's happening in India?
Well, it's a really interesting dynamic. E-commerce is growing really rapidly overall.
Yeah.
But social media commerce, where people are buying directly through platforms like Instagram or Facebook, it seems to be slowing down a bit.
Interesting.
Yeah, the report says that only 1 in 5 online shoppers actually used social media apps for purchases in 2024. That's a pretty notable dip. Meanwhile, cash on delivery, or DOR, is still king.
Really?
Yeah, especially among rural users and certain demographics.
CR, I thought people were moving towards digital payments everywhere.
It's more complex than that.
Okay.
In India, particularly in rural areas and for certain demographics, there's just a lack of trust in online payment systems.
Okay.
People prefer that tangible exchange. knowing they're paying when they actually have the product in hand.
Makes sense.
Plus, in many rural areas, the logistics of online payments and deliveries can be a challenge.
Right. So if you're a business trying to get into the Indian market, you can't just assume that everyone's going to be happy with online payments.
Right.
You've got to be flexible,
Yeah.
offer SWOOD, and really build trust with those consumers who might be a little bit hesitant.
It's about understanding the specific context.
Okay, let's talk about language.
Okay.
India is incredibly diverse linguistically. Is that reflected in how people use the internet?
Oh, absolutely. 98% of internet users in India have accessed content in Indic languages.
Wow, 98%.
Even in urban areas, 57% prefer content in their native languages.
Wow.
While Hindi is the most widely used, regional languages like Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam are seeing a big jump in what the report calls conversion ratios,
Right.
meaning more people are choosing to actually use those languages online.
So content creators, businesses, marketers, it's not enough to just translate things into Hindi.
Right.
You've got to think about all those regional languages, all
Yeah.
those nuances, and really create content that resonates with those specific audiences.
It's a huge opportunity
It is.
for anyone willing to put in the effort.
Okay, now everyone's talking about voice search these days. Is that a thing in India, or are people still mostly typing things in?
Voice search is definitely gaining traction.
Okay.
1 in 5 internet users in India are using voice commands now.
Okay. Who's using it and how are they using it?
It's particularly popular in rural areas
Okay.
with those aged 25 to 44, and even in higher socioeconomic strata.
Mm-hmm.
People are using it for all sorts of things. Navigation commands in Google Maps,
Mm-hmm.
making shopping lists, listening to news, searching for information.
It seems like voice search is making the internet more accessible.
Yeah.
Especially for people who maybe aren't so comfortable with traditional text-based interfaces.
It is, yeah. It's a key point. And for people with lower literacy levels or disabilities, voice search can be a game changer.
Right.
It allows them to interact with technology in a way that feels more natural and intuitive.
And as voice technology gets better,
Yeah.
I mean, who knows?
Right.
We might all be talking to our devices instead of typing.
We might.
Earlier, we talked about how most people are consuming news unconsciously online.
Yeah.
The report goes into where people are getting their news from.
It's really interesting. It's from all over the place.
Okay.
News apps and websites, social media platforms, messaging apps,
Right.
even video sharing platforms like YouTube. All of these things are shaping how people understand what's going on in the world.
It sounds like kind of a Wild West out there. How can people make sure they're getting accurate information
Right.
from trustworthy sources?
This is where media literacy is so important.
Yeah.
We need to teach people how to critically evaluate the information they see online, how to identify biases, how to verify sources, and be aware of the potential for misinformation.
The report also mentions the rise of hyper-local news.
Right.
What's driving that trend?
People are increasingly interested in news that is directly relevant to their communities and their daily lives. It's kind of a reaction to this often overwhelming and impersonal nature of global news.
So it's about feeling connected to your immediate surroundings.
Yeah.
Getting information that actually impacts your day-to-day life.
Exactly.
Okay, back to AI. What are some specific concerns people have about it?
Right.
And how can we address them?
The report highlights worries about trust issues with AI bots,
Oh.
difficulties in using AI tools, and the potential for misuse.
Right.
There's a fear that AI could be used to manipulate people,
Uh-huh.
spread misinformation, or even replace human jobs.
It feels like every week there's a new headline about AI doing something amazing, but also something potentially kind of scary.
Right.
So it's like,
The double-edged sword.
yeah.
The key is to approach AI development and implementation with caution and transparency.
Okay.
We need clear guidelines, ethical frameworks, and strong regulations to make sure that it's used responsibly and actually benefits society.
So we can't just let the tech companies decide how this powerful technology gets used. It's got to be a conversation that involves everyone.
It really does.
We've been talking a lot about the digital revolution and its impact
Right.
on various aspects of Indian society. But let's not forget about that 41% of the population who are still offline.
Right.
How do we bridge that digital divide and make sure that everyone benefits from all of this progress?
It's a big challenge. It requires a multi-pronged approach.
Yeah.
We have to think about infrastructure, affordability, and digital literacy.
Right.
So expand internet access to rural areas, make devices and data plans more affordable.
Uh-huh.
Teach people the skills they need to navigate the digital world safely and effectively.
It's about creating an inclusive digital ecosystem
Yes.
where everyone has the opportunity to learn, connect, and thrive.
Exactly.
But even with increased access, there's still the issue of relevance.
Right.
Why should someone who's never been online suddenly feel compelled to join in?
You're right. That's where creating locally relevant content and services comes in. People need to see how the internet can directly benefit their lives.
Right.
Whether it's accessing educational resources, finding jobs, connecting with their communities, or just being entertained.
Yeah. So it's not just about giving them a smartphone and an internet connection. It's about showing them how to use those tools to improve their lives.
Exactly. It's about empowerment.
Yeah.
It's about giving individuals and communities the power to use technology
To their benefit.
to make their lives better.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From the rise of rural users to
Right.
the evolution of content consumption and the challenges of bridging the digital divide.
It's a lot to think about.
It is a lot, but what we really want to drive home is that digital literacy is crucial, not just for individuals, but for India's overall progress.
Yeah, I mean, it's a key driver of economic growth, social development, and even democratic participation.
That's a great point.
Think about it. Citizens equipped with digital skills are going to be better able to contribute to the digital economy.
Right.
They can access essential services and engage in informed decision-making.
It's not just about clicking and scrolling. It's about empowerment and agency in a world that's increasingly online.
It really is.
Yeah.
And, this responsibility to make this happen,
Yeah.
it falls on all of us. Governments, educational institutions, businesses,
Yeah.
even individuals.
So we need to create a culture where continuous learning is valued and supported,
Absolutely.
especially when it comes to technology.
It's about fostering a society where everyone can benefit from these advancements, not just a select few. And I think that's a good place to stop for now.
That is a good place to stop for now. So we'll be back with part 2, where we're going to explore some of the specific ways that this digital revolution is playing out in India and what it means for businesses, for individuals, and for society as a whole. So stay tuned.
I'll be here. It's interesting to think about how all of these shifts in internet access and usage are impacting the entertainment industry.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, we talked about the rise of cord cutters earlier, those folks who ditch traditional TV for online content.
Right.
But the report actually dives a lot deeper into this whole trend.
Oh, I'm all ears. It feels like everyone's talking about streaming services these days.
Yeah.
What does this actually look like in India, though?
Well, we're seeing a really interesting mix, actually.
Okay.
You've got traditional TV viewers, you've got your cord cutters,
Uh-huh.
and then there's what the report calls concurrent users, people who are using multiple platforms.
Interesting.
It's not so black and white anymore.
Not just one or the other, right?
Right. The lines are blurring. People aren't just limited to one way of watching anymore.
Right. That makes sense. I know I'm always flipping between my TV, my laptop, my phone, depending on what I'm watching and where I am.
Right.
What does this whole multi-platform world mean for the people who are actually creating the content, though?
It means they need to be thinking beyond these traditional formats.
Okay.
They need to be platform aware, really understanding those specific needs and preferences of each audience. A show that's designed for primetime TV might need a totally different approach
Right.
than a series that's made for a mobile streaming app.
It's like they need to be master storytellers across multiple dimensions.
Exactly.
This also creates opportunities for new types of content, right? I mean,
Yeah.
things that might not have worked on traditional TV can find a home online.
Exactly. And we're also seeing a boom in the popularity of what they call connected TVs, or CTVs,
Okay.
in India. These are those internet-enabled televisions
Right.
that allow people to stream content directly.
So blurring the lines even further
Yeah.
between traditional and online viewing.
Exactly.
I bet advertisers are loving this.
Oh, they are. CTVs provide a ton of data and analytics
Oh.
that allow for much more targeted advertising.
Right. So consumers get more relevant ads. Advertisers can be more efficient with their spending. It's a win-win.
It is.
Let's go back to e-commerce for a second. We were talking about how cash on delivery, COD, is still huge in India.
Right.
Well, the report goes even further with this,
Oh, yeah.
highlighting what they call only COD shoppers.
Okay, so these are shoppers who exclusively use COD for online purchases.
Yeah.
And it's actually a significant segment, particularly in rural areas, among women and in lower socioeconomic strata.
Why do you think they stick to COD even when other options are available?
Well, trust is a big factor.
Yeah.
they might not be comfortable sharing their financial information online.
Right.
They might prefer that tangible exchange, that cash for goods.
Right. They want to see it
Right.
before they pay for it.
Exactly. It could also be about the logistics of online payments and deliveries in certain areas.
So this, again, really underscores the need for businesses to adapt and be flexible.
Yeah.
If you want to reach these consumers, you got to offer sod, you got to build trust, understand their concerns.
We're just recognizing that one size fits all just doesn't work.
Doesn't work in India.
In a market like India, no.
We also touched upon language diversity earlier.
Yeah.
What other insights does the report offer on that?
Well, it highlights the importance of going beyond Hindi.
Oh,
Even though Hindi is the most used Indic language online,
yeah.
those regional languages like Tamil, Telugu, and Malayalam are showing really strong growth and engagement. People want to consume content in their native languages.
And that's a huge opportunity.
It is.
But it's not just about translation, right? You can't just take something in English and swap out the words.
Oh, no, absolutely not. It's about cultural sensitivity, understanding the nuances of each language.
Right, thinking about the design and layout of websites and apps, the tone and style of the communication.
Yeah, all of that.
The visuals you use, it all needs to be tailored to the cultural context.
It does.
Okay, let's talk about voice search again. Who's actually using voice search in India, and how are they using it?
The report shows that rural users are leading the way, as well as those aged 25 to 44,
Okay.
and even higher socioeconomic strata. People are using it for everything from, like I said, navigation commands in Google Maps,
Right.
to making shopping lists, listening to news, searching for information.
So it's really making the internet more accessible,
It is.
especially for people who might not be comfortable with those more traditional text-based interfaces.
That's right.
And as voice technology gets better, who knows where this is going to go?
Right.
We might even see a shift from text-based interfaces to voice-first interactions in the future.
We might. It's really interesting to think about.
Earlier, we talked about how most people are consuming news unconsciously online.
Yeah.
So the report digs a little bit deeper into the sources of this news consumption.
And it's coming from a lot of different places.
Okay.
You've got your news apps and websites, social media platforms,
Right.
messaging apps, even video sharing platforms like YouTube.
So it's all over.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And all of these things are playing a part in shaping how people understand what's going on in the world.
It's like a buffet of information out there, right? But how can people be sure that they're getting accurate information from trustworthy sources?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
This is where media literacy becomes so important.
Yeah.
We have to teach people how to critically evaluate information online, how to identify biases, verify sources, and be aware of the potential for misinformation.
It's something we need to be talking about more and more, I think.
For sure. The report also mentions the rise of hyperlocal news.
Right.
And it's really
But it's
interesting.
grinding that trend.
People are just increasingly interested in news that's directly relevant to their communities and their daily lives. It's almost like a reaction to the kind of overwhelming impersonal nature of global news.
Well, it's about feeling connected to your immediate surroundings.
Yeah.
Getting information that actually impacts your day-to-day life.
That's right.
That makes a lot of sense.
And it's really interesting because this has led to the emergence of so many new hyperlocal news platforms and initiatives catering to the specific needs of different localities.
Okay, back to AI. What are some specific concerns people have about it, and how can we address them?
Well, the report highlights things like trust issues with AI bots,
Oh.
difficulties using AI tools, and the potential for misuse.
Right.
You know, people are afraid that AI could be used to manipulate people, spread misinformation, or even, replace human jobs.
It feels like every week there's a new headline about AI doing something amazing, but also something kind of scary.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful.
Mm-hmm.
The key is to approach AI development and implementation with a lot of caution and transparency. We need those clear guidelines,
Right.
ethical frameworks, and some strong regulations to make sure it's used responsibly.
We can't just let the tech companies decide how this powerful technology is used.
We can't. It has to be a conversation that involves everybody.
Right. Policymakers, researchers.
Right. Everyday people.
Yeah, everyone.
Yeah.
We've been talking a lot about the digital revolution and its impact on so many different aspects of Indian society.
We have.
But we can't forget about that 41% of the population who are still offline.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do we bridge that digital divide and ensure that everyone benefits from this incredible technological advancement?
Well, it requires a multi-pronged approach, right? We've got to address
Yeah.
infrastructure,
Yeah.
affordability, digital literacy. We need to expand internet access to those rural areas,
Right.
make devices and data plans more affordable, and teach people the skills they need to be safe and effective online.
So it's about creating this inclusive digital ecosystem
Yes.
where everyone has the opportunity to learn, connect, and thrive.
Absolutely.
But even with increased access, there's still the issue of relevance.
Right.
Why should someone who's never been online suddenly feel like they need to join in?
It's a good question. That's where creating that locally relevant content and those services comes in.
Right.
People need to see how the internet can directly benefit their lives.
Yeah.
Whether it's accessing educational resources, finding jobs, connecting with their communities, or just being entertained.
So it's not just about giving them a smartphone and an internet connection, right?
Yeah.
It's about showing them how to use those tools to improve their lives in very tangible ways.
Exactly. It's about empowerment, giving individuals and communities the power to actually use technology to make their lives better.
Speaking of transformation, the world of online entertainment in India is constantly evolving.
Oh, for sure.
Let's delve into the rise of over-the-top OTT platforms and what they mean for the future of entertainment.
Yeah, so these OTT platforms, they're streaming services that deliver content directly over the internet,
Right.
bypassing those traditional cable or satellite TV providers. They're super popular in India.
Yeah.
They offer a massive library of movies, TV shows, live sports, music.
What's driving this popularity? Is it just the convenience factor, or are there other reasons people are cutting the cord and embracing these platforms?
Well, convenience is definitely a big part of it.
Right.
People love that they can watch what they want when they want without being tied to a broadcast schedule.
Yeah, no more TV guide.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's also about the affordability of these services, the personalized recommendations,
Right.
and the sheer volume and diversity of content that's available.
It's like having an entire world of entertainment at your fingertips.
It is.
I can see why traditional TV providers are feeling a little bit nervous.
They are. The rise of these OTT platforms is causing a major shift in viewing habits.
Yeah.
It's leading to that decline in traditional TV viewership.
And revenue.
And revenue, yeah. They're having to adapt. They're having to offer more flexible packages, streaming options,
Right.
and they're even having to invest in their own original content to try to stay competitive.
So it's a really interesting time, right? It's a time of disruption, but also a time of innovation
It is,
in the entertainment industry.
for sure.
Speaking of disruption, we've talked about the rise of those cord cutters.
Yeah.
But let's dig a little bit deeper into who these cord cutters actually are and why they're making this switch.
Well, the report paints a pretty clear picture.
Okay.
They tend to be younger, more tech-savvy, more likely to live in urban areas.
Okay.
They're also much more price-conscious.
Makes sense.
And they really value convenience and personalized recommendations.
So they're those early adopters, the ones who are comfortable navigating the digital world
Yeah.
and demanding more from their entertainment
Exactly.
and their reasons for cutting the cord. I mean, they vary.
They do, yeah. Some are frustrated with the high cost of cable.
Okay.
Others want more flexibility and control.
Right.
And many are drawn to the wider variety of content that's available online.
It's a good reminder for businesses that they have to adapt to these changing consumer behaviors
They do.
and preferences.
Yeah.
If they don't, they risk being left behind.
That's right.
The rise of cord cutting is a really clear signal that the traditional model of TV consumption, it's just not sustainable anymore.
Yeah, it's not.
It's a wake-up call for the industry to innovate.
And evolve.
We've explored so many different aspects of India's internet landscape, from the rise of those rural users to the evolution of content consumption and the challenges of bridging the digital divide.
A lot to unpack.
It is a lot, but as we wrap up this segment, I want to focus on one really crucial element that underpins everything we've been talking about.
Okay.
Digital literacy.
It's so important.
It's the foundation of a thriving digital society.
It is.
Digital literacy empowers individuals to use technology safely, responsibly, and effectively to unlock its full potential for personal, professional, and societal good.
It's more than just knowing how to use a computer or a smartphone.
It's about critical thinking.
Yes.
Evaluating information.
Protecting yourself online.
And understanding the broader implications of technology on our lives.
Exactly. It's giving people the knowledge and skills they need to navigate this increasingly complex digital world.
Right.
And to use it for positive change.
And it's not just an individual responsibility, right?
No, absolutely not.
We need to create a culture of digital literacy, where learning and adaptation are just these continuous processes.
It takes a village.
It
It
does.
requires a collaborative effort from governments, educational institutions, businesses, and communities to create those opportunities for everyone to develop their digital skills and confidence.
So as we move into our final segment, let's keep this in mind.
Okay.
The future of India's internet is not just about numbers, trends, and technologies. It's
Right.
about people.
Right.
It's about their choices.
Their ability to navigate this digital landscape with awareness and empowerment.
With a sense of shared purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's amazing to think about the scale of this digital transformation in India and how it's impacting everything from entertainment to education, even how people shop for groceries.
Yeah, and digital literacy is so crucial not just for those individuals, but for India's overall progress.
It's like a key driver of economic growth, social development,
Huh.
even democratic participation.
Think about it. Citizens equipped with those digital skills
Huh.
are better able to contribute to the digital economy, access essential services, engage in informed decision-making.
Yeah, it's not just about clicking and scrolling, it's about empowerment and agency
Right.
in a world that's increasingly online.
And that responsibility falls on all of us, governments, educational institutions, businesses, individuals.
We need to create a culture where continuous learning is valued and supported,
Absolutely.
especially when it comes to technology.
It's about fostering a society where everyone can benefit from these advancements, not just a select few.
So let's recap what we've learned in this deep dive into India's internet scene in 2024.
Okay.
We started with that surprising fact that rural India is now leading the internet charge.
Right. More users, faster growth, a real hunger for all those digital tools and services.
But it's not without its challenges, right?
Right.
Shared access, the digital divide within the country itself, and that need for solutions that are tailored to very specific needs and preferences. We then explored how content consumption is rapidly evolving. You've got those cord cutters ditching traditional TV, the preference for Indic language content, and the rise of those OTT platforms. It's changing everything.
The whole entertainment landscape is changing.
Yeah, e-commerce is another fascinating area. That slowdown in social media commerce, the persistence of cash on delivery for certain segments, and, businesses really needed to understand those nuances of each market.
They do. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Not at all. And of course, we can't ignore the growing influence of AI, excitement about its potential, concerns about ethical use, and a real need for careful consideration as it becomes more and more integrated into our lives.
It's a powerful tool.
It is. But here's the key takeaway for me. The future of India's internet isn't predetermined.
Right.
It's being shaped right now by the choices people make, the policies that are implemented, the businesses that are leading the way.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener?
It means you're not just a spectator in this whole digital revolution.
Right. You have a role to play.
Whether you're a business leader trying to reach new markets, a policymaker shaping the digital landscape, an educator equipping the next generation, a content creator crafting engaging experiences, or just a citizen navigating this new world.
Yeah, it impacts all of us.
Your actions, your decisions, your voice, they all matter.
Embrace those opportunities, address the challenges, and use your knowledge to help create a digital future that benefits everyone.
That's the power of a deep dive. It's not just about gathering information. It's about understanding what it all means and how you can use that knowledge to make a real impact.
We encourage you to check out the Internet in India Report 2024 for yourself. Do your own deep dive and continue exploring this fascinating and ever-evolving landscape.
Thanks for joining us on this journey.
It's been fun.
And remember, the future of India's internet, it isn't something to just observe.
No, it's something to shape.
Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep pushing for a digital future that's inclusive, innovative, and empowering for all.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Until next time, keep exploring.